Welcome back to Fantasy Football Today. I'm Jamie, that's Dave, that's Heath. We're starting to look ahead to 2023, and you can check out the list of our quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends on CBSSports.com. Those lists will be up next week. So we're going to talk wide receivers now and the early look at our top 12 rankings at the position. So let's start with Heath's top 12. And again, we're going to show these rather quickly so you can spend some time again on the site taking a look at where exactly these guys will all stack up. But we're all kind of in a similar range with similar group of wide receivers, especially at the top when it comes to Justin Jefferson leading the way. So there's Heath's top 12. Dave's top 12, or I guess my top 12 would be next. Let's show you that as well. Dave's top 12 is next. So, okay. So there you go. The top 12 there for me. Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Cooper Kupp, Tyreek Hill. Well, again, a lot of similar names. There's Dave's. Very similar with the top guys at the top of the list when it comes to Jefferson, Chase, Kupp as well. So let's start there with the situation with Justin Jefferson. Easy, no-brainer that he's not just the number one receiver, but should he be the number one overall pick in PPR?
In PPR, yes. In half PPR, probably. In non-PPR, no way. I just think that that's where it comes out. Jefferson's going to catch so many passes that it just puts him over the top, over every running back, including Christian McCaffrey.
His career arc so far is just incredible. Like, you look at it, as a rookie, 88 and 1,400, and then the next year, 108 and 1,600. Now he's played one fewer game and had last week's disaster, and he already has 124 catches and 1,700 yards. Like, he's still just 23 years old. There's no telling what he's going to do. He's definitely number one overall in full PPR for me.
What about half and none?
Half for sure. I think none he probably will be as well. I think he's just number one.
He's just that good.
Like, he's going to have 1,900 yards this year. It's not like there's a bunch of running backs getting more than that.
It's true.
And you think about the situation in Minnesota, I don't think they're going to add another big-time wide receiver to try and take coverage away from him. Though they might try and upgrade on Adam Thielen. They might just elevate KJ Osborne into that role. They've got TJ Hawkinson there. He put up some pretty good numbers after the Hawkinson trade. That offensive line, when they're healthy, it's good. They're going to get stronger. The defense was part of the reason why he had so many targets and so much work. I expect that defense to get a little bit better. That might hurt him a little bit, but I also think the run offense, the run game with Dalvin Cook, I think Cook might take a bigger step back next year, and it just leads to more for Justin Jefferson that way. So I think it all washes out. He's still the number one receiver in fantasy.
Cooper Kupp was the number one receiver coming into this season, and he was trending to be in the conversation with Justin Jefferson before suffering the ankle injury. Is it still safe to say he is a top 3 wide receiver, knowing that we don't know if Sean McVay is coming back because he had some conversations about leaving after last season winning the Super Bowl, and this season was a disaster. Matthew Stafford should be back, though. We don't know who the running mate will be for the Rams, but I'm not sure that matters. So you see here, based on his numbers, it was relatively similar catches per game. Touchdowns were clearly not the same, but based on what he was trending to do and his fantasy points per game in the same range. Can he get back to that level again?
Well, I just talked about how amazing Justin Jefferson was. Cooper Kupp per game was the same guy. Like, they were both at 22.5 fantasy points per game. I do think that if we see the head coach leave, if we see the quarterback change, then we have to reevaluate it. For now, I'm expecting both those guys to be in those spots, and he's my number 2 wide receiver.
He's an older Justin Jefferson. That's why he's behind Justin Jefferson. Kind of simple.
There you go. Older Justin Jefferson. That's not a bad thing to be for Cooper Kupp based on what he's done for fantasy managers the last couple of years. Speaking of a guy that's been the number 1 guy in the last several years, and that's Davante Adams, and he had a pretty successful season with Derek Carr. Now, he says he's committed to the Raiders despite the fact that the Raiders are moving on from Derek Carr, but we don't have Davante Adams, at least the 3 of us, in our top 5. Are we making a mistake?
Let's see who his quarterback is, because if his quarterback is an upgrade
if it's Jarrett Stidham,
Carr,
it's a brilliant thing.
Based on what we saw last week, you'd be right about that. I think that they can try and find somebody better than Jarrett Stidham. I think if the quarterback ends up being just an awesome deal, maybe is it Aaron Rodgers? Does Davante Adams somehow?
Well, Tom Brady's the one that you're hearing.
I think that's an upgrade too. But that's a team that needs to improve its offensive line. That's a defense that I don't think will get that much better this offseason. So there is a path here for Davante Adams to see a huge amount of targets no matter who the quarterback is. It's just what type of quality of targets will they be?
I do wonder about Tom Brady behind that offensive line being an upgrade over.
He's not going there against that
right.
offensive line.
It's got to be a better offensive line for Tom Brady to be an upgrade on anybody. It's uncertainty about the quarterback, and I don't think he's going to be worse than probably 6th or 7th, no matter who it is. We've seen the peril of doubting Davante Adams with a backup quarterback. But these other guys are really fantastic, and he is already 30 years old.
It's true. Just a lot of things at play right now, and even if the coach may be replaced now, they're saying that Josh McDaniels is going to stay, but not the best season for him in his Raiders debut, but very good for Davante Adams. Two receivers that sort of differ for us. Dave and I have Amon-Ra St. Brown ranked. Heath, you do not. You have Garrett Wilson ranked. We do not. So, Dave, you make the case for Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then Heath, you can make the case for Garrett Wilson.
Haven't you seen it since he really started to get a lot of playing time last year in Detroit? He's that #1 target in the slot, gets a ton of opportunities from Jared Goff. The situation will change for him because I think Jameson Williams takes a big step forward in his second season. And this is still a team that wants to run the football a little bit, but they're going to be in a lot of competitive games. Speaking of a defense that might not get better, their front seven looks like they're getting there. Their secondary still might give up a lot of points. More high-scoring games on deck for the Lions, and I think that leads to Amon-Ra St. Brown being one of those wide receivers that sees 150 targets again next year.
I actually do think the defense is going to get better because
in the back end?
That's where they spend their capital. Because if they're committed to Jared Goff, the offensive line is pretty solid right now. Run game is solid. Receiving core seems to be pretty solid. If you're going to address something, you probably address your secondary, and that's how they get better.